In this video, I will show you how you can figure out the pitch of a roof. And usually with the pitch of the roof, you can figure out the slope or the angle, how many degrees it would be sloping. However, the roof will need to be straight. If there are any sags in the roof, any deformities at all, then you could be off by a little bit, depending upon how bad the roof is sloping or deformed. And I will be providing you with a couple of different ways to do it. One over the roof shingles, one over the sheathing, and one underneath the rafters. Or in my opinion, one of the easiest places to figure out the slope of a roof will be the bottom of the fascia board. And this can usually be done with a framing square and a level. And you can usually do this by leveling the bottom of the framing square and then lining the framing square up with the number 12. That is the most common number used by architects and builders to figure out the pitch of the roof. Now, once you have that lined up, you can simply go up to this side of the framing square and see where the bottom of the fascia board lines up. And in our case right here, it lines up with the number 6, providing us with a 6-inch rise in vertical height for every 12 inches of horizontal length, creating a 6 and 12 roof pitch ratio. And don't forget that your number over here could be different, and it could be 5 3/4 inches, could be 5.5 inches, and believe it or not, might not line up with a particular inch. And I've seen this happen a lot when using this method here. And I will leave it up to you what you want to do with it. If you just want to round it to the nearest number or recheck a different section of the roof to see if you come up with a different number. Now, if you don't have a framing square, you can simply measure over 12 inches, make 2 marks that create a distance of 12 inches on the top of your level, and then just simply measure up to create a perpendicular line or 90-degree angle, and then measure this distance here. However, this isn't always going to be accurate. And if that's the case, you can always grab a piece of plywood, scrap piece of lumber that is 12 inches wide, and then level this piece of lumber while leveling this corner up with the bottom of the fascia board. And then once that is done, you have this piece level. You can hold this board in position. You can remove the level, set it on the top of your ladder, and then make a mark over here with your other hand while holding this piece in position. And then simply measure the distance to figure out the roof pitch. And next up, let's go ahead and go underneath the roof rafter. And we're simply going to grab a piece of lumber that might be a little longer than 2 feet, straight on the top, and then attach it with a couple of screws or clamps to the roof rafter or top cord of your roof truss, and then create a level line here. Use your level to create a horizontal line, and then after that line has been drawn, you can simply measure a distance on the line of 12 inches. Simply create another measurement where we have a 12-inch measurement here. And this can be located anywhere within this line. And then off of each one of the lines, you will create a vertically plumb line that we will be able to measure. And then we're simply going to take these measurements here and subtract the smaller one from the bigger one, again providing us with a 6 and 12 roof pitch. Now let's go to the top of the roof. We will use the roof sheathing, and it's very important that the framing square, bottom of the framing square, is parallel to the fascia board. If this is out of whack a little bit, let's say this end of the framing square is over here about 6 inches, then you could end up with a problem with your measurements. And then we're going to grab our level and then slide it over into position to where it lines up with the number 12 on the framing square, and then go to the other side and see where we're at. Again, 6 inches here for a 6 and 12 roof pitch. And then you could always set this end of the level on top of the roof sheathing and then level it and then slide the framing square into position instead of setting the framing square on top of the sheathing and moving the level. Another idea would be to grab a longer piece of plywood, something like this, to where you have a straight edge sitting on top of the roof sheathing, and then simply grab your level and make a mark you can make your mark on the top. It doesn't have to be on the bottom. However, if you do, you're going to have to readjust your calculations. And of course, that might be easier for some of you. But if we make a mark on the bottom, we're going to be able to measure from this point over 12 inches and then create a square line here that we can measure to provide us with our roof pitch ratio of 6:12. And of course, that method can be used for the top of the shingles also. Or you can grab a long, straight 2x6 or even a 2x4 and set it on top of the roof shingles, and then grab your level and either make a level line or a plumb line. And this actually might be the easiest method of all. And of course, it can be used underneath the roof framing also. And then after you have drawn your lines, you can take this board down, set it on top of some sawhorses. You don't need to be working on the roof anymore. However, for the rest of the example, I will be working on top of the roof to make it easier for you to see what we're doing. And again, we are going to break out our trusty framing square, line this part of the framing square up with the horizontal line we drew, and of course the 12-inch mark on the framing square to figure out the pitch ratio. Again, 6:12. And by now you're probably getting a pretty good idea how you can use a combination of these if it's going to work easier. And if you are going to use this line here, you can simply raise or lower the framing square until you intersect with the 12-inch mark with the top of the guide board to find the number over here. So this line is probably going to work easier. However, if you can only create this line here, you can still use it to figure out the roof pitch on an existing house.